Welcome back! It's been a while and I missed you guys. Let's refresh on what happened the last time we were together. The massive Philistine army was planning to do some terrible mischief to the land of Israel. King Saul and his shrinking band of men were terrified. Samuel had told Saul that he would come in 7 days and tell him what to do, but Saul had grown tired of waiting for Samuel and offered a sacrifice to God by himself. That was not God's plan, and it was a very bad idea. Now Saul finds himself in quite the pickle. The Philistines have invaded their camp at Michmash, and Saul and his tiny army have fled to a new camp at Migron. 3 companies of Philistine raiders have left the new garrison at Michmash and are now on a mission to kill, steal, and destroy anything they find in Israel. Our story begins with Saul, camped under a pomegranate tree, doing, well, nothing. What are we gonna do? Saul's men groaned to each other. They all waited for Saul's instruction for a new plan, but he didn't seem to know what to do either. Saul had a son named Jonathan that he had placed in command over 100 soldiers. And Jonathan himself was growing tired of waiting for Saul to come up with something to do. So he turned to his armor-bearer and said, "Come on, let's you and I go over to the Philistine garrison." "Yeah, sure, I'm with you," was the eager reply. So the 2 of them slipped quietly out of camp, and no one even noticed they were gone. As they got close to the camp of the Philistines, Jonathan and his companion hid by 2 giant sharp rocks. "Man, there are a lot of them. It's like a sea of soldiers," whispered the armor-bearer when he saw the army. "Nothing God can't handle," Jonathan replied. "Listen, I have an idea. Let's go visit the camp of these heathens." "You mean just walk up to it?" the armor-bearer asked. "Yeah, God doesn't need many or few to accomplish a victory. He just needs willing men. Perhaps he will use us." "Are you willing?" Jonathan asked, turning to his companion. "Do whatever you think. I'm with you all the way," the armor-bearer whispered, adjusting his shield. "This is what I'm thinking," Jonathan said. "We come out of our hiding place here, and it won't take long for the Philistine scouts to see us. If they say, 'Wait here, we'll come down to you,' then we wait and see what happens. But if they say, 'Come up here to us,' then we know that God is fighting for us, and he has given their lives to us." "That sounds great, let's do it," said the armor-bearer. "I'm ready when you give the signal." "Okay, now," said Jonathan, and they stepped boldly out of their hiding place. "Hey, look! The Hebrews are crawling out of the holes where they've hidden themselves," one watchman laughed to another. "What do you think they're doing? There's only 2 of them. Are we supposed to be scared or something?" "Hey!" the scout called out. "Come up here and we'll show you something." "Yeah, we'll show you what an actual sword looks like." And they all laughed at their own joke. "The Lord has given them into our hand," called Jonathan. "Climb up after me." And he started climbing up the embankment to the camp on his hands and feet. And his armor-bearer climbed up after him. As they climbed up, they met the Philistines one by one. Jonathan knocked them down, and the armor-bearer finished them off. They were so successful that they killed 20 men in less than half an acre. And they were still going strong because God was fighting for them. And God caused there to be a great trembling among all the Philistines, not only the ones fighting with Jonathan in the garrison, but also the raiders and the ones that were in the raids or garrisons. Every single Philistine was trembling. All of them knew that they were fighting with God. Down in the little Israelite camp, the scouts noticed a commotion going on in the Philistine camp. Hey, are you seeing what I'm seeing?" asked the lookout. I think so," answered a soldier. What's happening? The Philistines, they're leaving. It's like they're just melting away. Somebody go tell King Saul! When Saul found out what was happening, the first thing he did was to find out who was missing from the camp. He counted all the people and then discovered that Jonathan and his armor-bearer were missing. Then he called for the priest of God and talked with him for a while the Israelite soldiers waited for Saul to tell them what to do next, the noise in the Philistine camp grew and grew until it was too loud to ignore. Jonathan and his armor-bearer were still fighting full force, all alone, and the pile of dead Philistines was growing around them. But no help came from the Israelite camp. Finally, the noise from the Philistine camp got so loud that Saul told the priest he could go, and he told the people to prepare themselves for war. When the 600 men with Saul were finally ready to go, Saul made a speech and called out, "Cursed be the man that eats any food until evening, that I may be avenged of my enemies! Now let's go to war!" Then they joined Jonathan and his armor-bearer. God gave them great victory. It was complete confusion in the Philistine camp. They were all killing each other. So all the Hebrews had to do was chase them, and boy did they run. Some of the deserters of Saul had joined the Philistines and were fighting against the Hebrews. But when they heard that Israel was winning, they switched sides again and began fighting against the Philistines from inside the Philistine ranks. All the men who had hid themselves in caves and pits and behind rocks heard the noise and poked their heads out of their hiding places. They saw the Hebrews were chasing the massive host of Philistines and were winning, and they all crawled out of their hiding places and joined the battle. Isn't it crazy what God can do when we're willing to let Him use us how He wants? I don't know about you, but I want to be like Jonathan and be brave and excited to obey God's voice. Don't miss the next story when we find out what happens next with Jonathan, Saul, and the people of Israel. That story is called Wild Honey. See you next time.